Welcome back to Wishwell Farms, everybody. Today we are pulling up plastic mulch and drip tape. Now, most of what we lay on our farm is biodegradable films, but I do lay about a dozen rows of conventional plastic mulches on our long season crops, like bell peppers and tomatoes. Everything else is biodegradable. We use the Challenger 1800. I'm going to show you how this machine works. So this is our plastic mulch lifter, the Challenger 1800, manufactured by Rainflow Irrigation. As you can see, I just lifted this first 200-foot section. The buried shoulder has been released from the soil, and it's just laying up on top, ready to be pulled into a wagon and discarded. And underneath is the irrigation line, the drip tape. We will pull that up separately. So we're going to be lifting this first, get it out of the way, and then we'll come back on the second pass to pull up about 4 or 5 or 6 of these at a time. Now, when we're doing plastic, we're only going to pull up 1 row at a time, 1 person per row. So we have 6 rows right here, and then I have 10 rows at the other end of the field. Everything else you see out here is biodegradable. We've already pulled the drip tape out of those lines, and I still have to split these old cantaloupe lines in half. I have a coulter that goes on the center of this lifter, and I'll run it down each row to split open this plastic to expose the drip tape. If we try to just rip the drip tape out of here right now, it'll all get tangled up on these vines and it won't come up. You can see how brittle this stuff is. A lot of it is normally degraded much more than this. And somewhere in here is the drip line. There it is. So it would be hard to pull this out. It would get caught on chunks of plastic and vines, and just, you'd be dragging a big mess, and it is a horrible job. So splitting it open first, like these over here, makes it a lot easier to pull up. So you can see how this will split right down the middle, and then the drip tape's already been removed. This is ready to be disked in, and this will all be gone by next spring. So it's a little muddier than I like. We had an inch of rain about 3 or 4 days ago, but I need to get this done. I think it's just dry enough that we can do it. So there's 2 disc blades up front. Those are cutting the vines, and then these are depth gauge wheels, so it doesn't sink too deep. And then you can use this top link right here, lengthen it or shorten it to level this machine out. We want this pretty level. You could tilt it up this way, or you can have it back more, tilted back that way more to get more depth for these cutter bars, these moldboard blades down here, to get down underneath the plastic. And I'll show you what this looks like when I get to the end of the row. I'll lift it up and show you up close. So you can see it's digging way down underneath and knocking off this cover dirt on this plastic. So now it's laying here ready to be lifted very easily. So here's what this little machine looks like lifted up out of the ground. You can see these 2 plow shearer blades here that go down underneath the bed to help lift it. And then these back here, some people just cut these off. They really don't do that much, but you can adjust them up or down. Supposedly, if you put them up real high, it'll help fluff the plastic up and make the dirt fall off and the weeds fall off, making it easier to either wrap up with another machine or pull up into a wagon like we do. And I'll show you that process tomorrow when we're out pulling up all this plastic into a wagon. So yeah, pretty simple machine. They do make one with an auto spring reset. Mine just has the shear bolts. So if I do hit a big rock underground, it'll shear these bolts so you don't bust anything, and these will kick back. And you just have to put them back in position and replace the bottom bolt, which is the shear bolt. So the other model that has auto reset has a set of springs here, so it just breaks free, and then you back up and it snaps back into position, ready to go. It works pretty good. It is very muddy out here. The ones in the back, I almost got stuck. These up here aren't bad. All right, it's the next day, and I'm out here where our cauliflower, broccoli, and cabbage and winter squash was. I have 17 rows left to split open to reveal the drip tape, to make the drip tape easier to pull up. So I'm getting ready to do that now. I'll show you the coulter that we put on our lifter that splits this plastic. But as you can see here, this plastic is more than half degraded. This is where the cauliflower was, where I'm standing right here. There's not a lot of it left. So we probably could get the drip tape up without splitting it, but there still is that chance of a random weed or a vine of some sort, or even chunks of plastic that hasn't degraded yet to kind of get hung up on the drip tape. And then the guys are just pulling with all their might trying to get that drip tape into the wagon, and it's a big pain in the butt. So for all the longer it takes for me to run up and down these roads real quick to split it open, it's well worth it. So these are the final 17 rows I have to do, and then we'll be hooking up our flatbed wagons, and Emma and Gavin will be out here, and we'll start pulling up drip tape and mulch. So here's the mulch lifter that I was showing earlier, but I've removed the lifter blades off the back and have put on the center coulter. So I still leave on the disc blades. They're not really necessary in the broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower, but they will be nice to have on there when I'm doing the winter squash, because there's still some vines out there. So those will cut the vines on either side of the plastic, and then this coulter is going to run down the middle and split it open, making it easier for us to pull the drip tape out. All right, we're ready to pull up some of this drip tape. This is our watermelon field. We have 10 rows, and we have them all tied onto the back of the wagon. So normally we all grab, whoever's in the wagon will grab 2 or 3 at once and just pull them in as I drive slowly through the field. But today we decided to try it a different way, and it's worked this way in the past also. Me and Emma did it this way last year. We just tied them all to the back of the wagon. We're gonna drive all the way across the field, out into the next field, so they're all pulled out of here, and then I'll hop back there and help them pull those 10 rows into the wagon. We definitely run a risk of snapping some of them this way, but a majority of them will stay intact all the way through the field. And if some of them break, we'll just turn around and go pick them up later. See, I can see over there on the left, we're dragging a big pile of vines. And if those don't break free from the line, it'll end up snapping the line. So far, it looks like they're all still coming. One of them might have broke. All right, I just got out of the watermelon field, and I'm gonna keep on going out here into this field here until all those lines are free from the watermelon rows. All right, we got all the drip lines pulled out. Unfortunately, there are about 4 here that have a ton of tension on them, and they're about ready to break. So I'm gonna drive back to the watermelon field, and then I'll hop back there and help them pull them all in, and we can find out why these 4 rows have so much tension on them. They're probably caught right at the end. I can see piles of vines holding that drip tape down. All right, I'm back here in the watermelon field, and this is what was causing the tension on some of these rows. Just big mounds of vines. There it comes. So it was almost free, but it was just enough to keep it held in. Sometimes just coming back to the row and finding the end. See, I have a knot tied off at the end of the drip tape for when we're irrigating, and that's what was caught in this pile of vines. Looks like we got a big mass right there. Sometimes you get these places where the plastic is not degraded enough, and between the plastic and the vines, it just creates enough to hold the drip tape back. See, even though these vines are really dead and crunchy, they're still tough enough to hold in the drip tape. It's super windy today too. We finally got them all pulled in. Now we just gotta either untie them or cut them off the back here. This field is ready to disc. Now we're gonna head down to our cantaloupe patch over there by the silos. We got 9 or 10 rows over there to get next. This is our cantaloupe field where patch number 1 was. We got a really good yield out of here, but obviously the season is over. The cantaloupes are gone, and we need to get this drip tape out of here so I can get it disked up, and we'll probably be putting sweet corn here next year. So we're gonna use the same method as we did in the watermelon field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we got 9 rows here. We're gonna tie on the back of the wagon and drive way out into that field, which is where the green beans were. These look like they're coming out pretty good. This is what harvested green beans look like 2 months after harvest. All right, I think they all came out. There might have been one that snapped. Emma and Gavin are getting all those pulled in. I want to hop up there and help them. It's a lot of weight. Does it feel heavy? Yeah. Now we are in our broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower patch, and we're just going to pull it in a traditional way. Each of them have 3 lines, and hopefully we don't run into too many of these problems like this. Getting caught on a stalk, and those things are stout. So that might be the one thing that gives us problems. So I've gotten asked many times in the past, can I reuse this drip tape? And I would say the answer is no. There's not a way to get it up until you lift the plastic or slice the plastic like I did here. And oftentimes you will nick the plastic, and it's going to have holes in it that has to be patched. There's mice that have chewed holes in it, and there's just no real good way to wind it up to be able to put it back on our layer to reuse it the next year. So this is a once and done product, and that's why we are removing it from the field now, so we can get it out of here, dispose of it, and I can get these fields disked. All right, we're pulling up plastic in our bell pepper patch. Definitely one of the least favorite jobs that everybody has on a farm, but one of those necessary evils that has to be done at the end of the season. So sometimes the plastic snags on pepper stalks, sometimes it tears because it got ripped when I was lifting it. It's not too bad though. It's a little windy out today. So going this direction, the wind actually helps a little bit, but when we turn around and go the other direction, it starts blowing dust in your face and tries to catch the plastic and pull it out of the wagon. Fortunately, we don't have a whole lot. We just got 1 row left in a bell pepper patch and 4 rows of tomatoes right here. And then we got 6 rows in the back of the field. The rest of it was all biodegradable. And I'm thinking next year I'm not even going to use any conventional plastic. I think I'm going to put biodegradable mulch on the entire farm. That way we don't have to do this anymore. The trick to making this job a little easier, as long as it's not breaking on you, is to have the plastic being pulled ahead of the wagon a little bit. That way if dirt starts building up right there, it kind of rolls off as you're pulling the plastic in. And if you get behind, then it starts building up a massive pile of dirt inside and it doesn't want to roll off. Now there are machines that wind this up. Most large growers have winders. Even Farmer Dre has one. I've seen one on his channel. The reason I don't have one is because we have such a little amount of conventional plastic. It takes about an hour to lift it all up and we're done. So I can't justify the expense of a winder. Plus, a lot of times our plastic is breaking when I'm lifting it, and if we had a winder, we'd have to stop and restart it every time we got to a broken section. So it's easier for us just to pull it in, spend an hour or two doing it, and we're done for the season. But it's not fun. We're just about ready to wrap this up for the day. It has been super windy out. We just had some gusts, probably almost 25 mile an hour, and it was pulling this plastic up like a sail. About pulled Gavin off the wagon. I tried to get the camera out in time, and then the plastic broke. We're on our final 2 rows right here. Just got to finish those up and we're done. And then we're going to call it a day. Tomorrow morning, we got the 20 rows of drip tape to pull up still. And I forgot to split those 4 rows right there. So that is degradable, but it has a drip line that still needs lifted out. The final 50 feet of mulch being lifted for 2025. I was barely able to lift it down here last night because it was so muddy after that inch of rain we got 4 days ago. A lot of the water drains to this end of the field. It always lays kind of wet right here. But I'm glad we got her done. That's it. Alrighty folks, all of the mulch and the drip tape has been removed from the fields. I want to show you what it looks like where we've removed the conventional plastic mulch versus what it looks like where the biodegradable films were. So this is what it looks like where there was conventional plastic mulch. Very clean. There's just humps, mounds of dirt where the raised beds were. And then you come over here. This is what it looks like at the end of the season where the BioGold 2 biodegradable film was. In some spots, you can see there's still quite a bit there, but in other locations, you can see 80–90% of it is gone. It's basically just on the shoulders and the buried edge that's left. Here's more biodegradable film. So this BioGold 2 mulch is just made out of starches, and the soil microbes just gobble it right up, and it will all be gone by next spring. Every now and then you might see little shards here and there, but eventually it all gets eaten up by the microbes and is gone. So I'm thinking about going all biodegradable next year. I've been slowly weaning myself off using conventional, traditional plastic films for the last few years, and I've only been using them on tomatoes and peppers because they're such a long season crop. From the time you transplant in mid-May, at least here in Ohio, all the way till frost when the crop is terminated in mid-October normally. But I've been very happy with the performance of BioGold 2 biodegradable film. And I think I'm gonna go 100% BioGold next year, so I don't have to remove any more of this plastic mulch and dispose of it. So what's gonna happen next out here is we're gonna be bringing our disc out here to level all of these beds off. I'll probably just sink it down like 4 or 5 inches, and sometimes I'll go over it twice because I want this field to be level. I want to smooth off all of these raised beds. And then immediately after, I will bring our chisel plow in, and I will sink our chisel plow down probably 6 to 8 inches at least, and plow it as deep as I actually can plow it, just to break up that soil real well so it's ready for disking again in the spring, so it's ready for laying new beds. So that's kind of the preparation process, or what we go through here at the end of the season and get it prepared for next season. So I've gotten a ton of questions this year about what fertilizers are we using in our fields to grow our vegetables. I'm not going to go into it real deep. I just want to touch on it briefly here real quick. So for many years, we were putting down composted poultry litter. And I really like the idea of using that because it's basically organic fertilizers. The problem I was having is that the equipment that the people we used to spread the poultry litter had such heavy equipment that it would compact our ground. So we have all this nice fluffy ground, you know, that's been worked up after we remove our mulches, and then they bring that heavy equipment in here, and it would just cause so much compaction that I struggled to lay good beds the following season in the spring. So unfortunately, we had to get away from using the poultry litter probably 4, 5, 6 years ago. So now we are spreading just conventional fertilizers and based on soil samples. So I'll be taking soil samples here this week or next week to find out what my soil needs for next season. So the first thing I will be spreading on our fields is MAP, monopotassium phosphate. It is 1152O. That's the analysis. And then the other item is potash, which is 0060. And the final item we spread on our fields right before we lay our plastic mulch is ammonium sulfate, also known as AMS. And that's our main nitrogen source and sulfur. The analysis of AMS is 210024. So 21 parts nitrogen, no potash, no phosphorus, and 24 parts sulfur. So that's the quick and the short of it. I'll get into more of that later on, maybe after I get my soil samples done or when we're out here actually spreading the fertilizer. So that is a quick rundown of how we're going to be preparing our fields this fall and next spring. This is where we're going to wrap this one up today, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all again next time down on the farm.